Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to this new Edge Filtration webinar. Thank you for participating. I know that many of you have been participating throughout these weeks and these days to our previous webinars. Today, we are talking about another filtration unit of our range of products. So this usual small rule will tell you anyway. I know that you are used to it, and I know that you know this rule, but we have muted your microphone, so please keep them muted. And if you have to ask any kind of question, just use the button below for the chat, and we will read and we will try to answer to every question that you want to have answered. Okay, so as I was telling you, today we will discuss and we will go through the mist compact filtration unit. So some of you recognize this unit. We are in the world of the oil mist. Now, here we are talking about the centralized system. So the mist compact, let's say that is the centralized system used basically for the emulsion. Okay, so all those mechanical applications when there is oil which is mixed with water. Okay, so oil miscible with water. Basically, we will discuss as usual how the filter is composed. So we will go through and we will see all the components and the principal parts of the filter. And obviously, we will take a look at what we have to take into account when we have to do a maintenance, and what we need to plan, what we need to be careful of from a maintenance point of view. Okay, as I was telling you, this is the centralized unit. As we thought of this filter as a modular system. Okay, so if some of you have followed the Filtration compact webinar, we talk about a modular system as the Filtration compact is. So 4 cartridges, 8 cartridges, and so on and so on and so on. So modular system. This is the way we think this centralized unit filter. Okay, so I will tell you just basically how it is composed, the filter. Mainly we can divide the filter into 2 parts as usual. So the so-called dirty parts and the clean parts. Of course, here there is also this lower part, the lower part, sorry, when there is the tank for the collection of the oil, and where is the coming chamber where there is the inlet of the airflow. Okay, because the airflow, here we have the inlet behind the airflow, and we have this part of the filter where the flow, the speed of the flow is reduced. Okay, so the filtration starts from this part, because also in this part, as I was telling you, the airflow reduces. So the big particles already start to drop. Okay, so this is the first part of the filter. Then this part, the cartridges part, here obviously is the main part of the filter. I will open up this part just to show you what are the components of the filter. Okay, so I open this door. Okay, here, important, first part, first filtration step. Okay, we will talk about, we say here that we can talk about 3 filtration steps at least. First one, after the plenum, so after the coming chamber, there is the metallic mesh. Later I will show you, we have dismounted it, I will show you in detail, and you can take a look at it how it is done. Now the first step of filtration, metallic mesh, as I was saying. Obviously here, the, let's say, most obvious characteristics, most obvious thing that the metallic mesh does, is that it stops those solid particles that can be anyway in those applications. Also, if you have the lubrofrefrigerating oil, but anyway, it helps you to stop, yes, the solid particles, but also it gives you help in terms of the granulometry of the oil mist that we have. So it gives you an aid in this sense. So it increases the granulometry of the oil mist. Okay, so after this pre-filtration step, so the metallic mesh, we have the flow that goes upwards, obviously, and it's let's say in an homogeneous way, it goes to the second filtration step. which is the polypropylene cloth. Okay, so this is a part which covers the actual cartridge. This part, let's say, that works according the principle of the coalescence, but it can help you to stop all those big particles. Okay, so that gives the, let's say, the proper filtration role, the core filtration role to the cartridge which is inside. So we speak about the second filtration step, which is the polypropylene cloth. Okay. Then the second one, which is obviously the core of the system, which is the heart of the filter, is the cartridge, which is in fiberglass. Okay. So we speak about a cartridge which gives you already a filtration that can be considered like an absolute filtration, because we speak of a level of H11 filtration. So it is a really high filtration level. Anyway, we can add also another step of filtration, which is like we do in the pulsatron compact. We can add also the final filtration, the absolute final filtration. So another step, which is basically can be used as a security step. So in case of there is something wrong with the cartridge, you have anyway that step of filtration. But also maybe the most important thing to say is that we suggest to use also this ulterior step, this final step, when you have the inlet inside, obviously inside the building, inside the manufacturing area. Okay, so this is the part which is the core of the filter. Then we have the upper part. Okay, so here it's really high, it's really an upper part. So I will not open this up. I will not show you how it is done. But anyway, if you know a little bit about the pulsatron, I know that many of you have seen how the pulsatron is done. It's basically the same thing. So you have the motor, you have the ventilator, you have the motor class IE3 efficiency as usual. So basically this is the part, this is the clean part. Okay, and then the upper part, there is also on the outlet of the filter, we can add the optional of the silencer, of course, as usual. Again, we have some panels inside the ventilator that can help you to reduce the level of sound. But anyway, if there are some level of decibels which are required, we can also obviously add the silencer at the output of the filter. Last thing, but it's not the least, I would say, which is really important always in a maintenance point of view, it's the DP LED. I didn't mention the DP LED, which is anyway one thing that personally we always suggest, because it can help you, it can give you the idea of the state of the filter, because you know this DP LED works according different steps of let's say alarm. I will call it now alarm. Why? Because you can have here from green to red. How does it work? It works according to the pressure differential. Okay, so you have basically the data, the actual data. You know when the filter is getting clogged and when the filter is starting to have, let's say, some problems, and maybe you can start scheduling. You have to start planning some maintenance. So when you have this accessory, when you have this item on the filter, you can visually see when it's time to do the maintenance based on the pressure differential. So when the cartridges start getting clogged, obviously the amount of delta P, the difference in terms of pressure increases. So you know that you have to start planning a maintenance. So what should be done in terms of maintenance? I will show you physically how the cartridges need to be dismounted, how they are mounted, and what can you do on the cartridges. So I will close this door, and we have here the cartridges so that I can show you. I just ask my colleague to follow me. Okay, so first filtration step. Okay, so after the plenum, there is the metallic mesh. Okay, here you can see this one, you can actually wash the metallic mesh. with water, with the with some hydro cleaner, you can wash this metallic mesh. Where obviously you can understand that there will be some particles on it, so you just need to take it away with some water aiding. So this is the metallic mesh, and then the cartridges. The cartridges here, this is the polypropylene cloth that I was mentioning that covers all the cartridges around. So it's not, let's say, it's like a protection of the cartridges, and it is made in polypropylene. Okay, and then we have the actual cartridge. Okay, now here you see fiberglass, which is also protected because, as you know, fiberglass is quite delicate. Okay, so it needs to be handled carefully. So we added a protection also to the cartridge. And as usual, just like for the pulse on compact, you have this part, okay, that goes inside, okay, and then here it is attached here. Okay, you imagine that there is the cartridge here. Now I don't do it because it will be a little bit inconvenient. Okay, and then obviously, of course, as usual, make sure to ensure that the gasket here, this upper part of the cartridge, which will go here attached. Okay, make sure that it's well sealed, and you have on these parts a knob on the lower part here. You will have a knob, okay, that will help you to get the cartridge sealed to that panel. Okay, so basically this is what should be taken into account in terms of maintenance. Okay, of course, as usual, we have to speak about a little bit the timing of the maintenance, which is the obviously most frequently asked question. But I know, maybe some of you remember the Clean Mist webinar when we had to talk about all the different, let's say, heaviness of the applications. So we always have to take a look at how it is, let's say, stressful the application in terms of the filtration system. So, for instance, we can speak of low duty application where the cartridges can last also more than 1 year. We can go for also 1.5 years. So we have quite a long life of the cartridge, but obviously here we are talking about a standard application where you have 8-hour cycle, where it's not that heavy application. But obviously when you start having heavy duty application and so on, you can have those time reduced. We talk always about emulsion, okay? Because of course, this is meant for application when there is emulsion. Because if you use this kind of filter when there is straight oil, and especially the things that it needs to be careful of is the white smoke. Okay, it's just the oil that gets burned. Okay, so when you have high temperature, when you have high pressure, when you have that kind of smoke, of white smoke, can give you some problem, of course. Okay, because the cartridge gets clogged, so the filter doesn't work properly. The filter will suffer from that kind of oil, of smoke, of white smoke. So you should go for another kind of filter which works with the coalescence principle, the MCOS, which is our mist compact oil and smoke. So basically, I think that more or less we have spoken about the components of the filter, a little bit all the things that should be taken care of. So I would like to ask my colleague to collect all the questions, and if we have some frequently asked questions and so on. So I will be waiting for your questions here.
Okay, so as usual, we will try to go through the most frequently asked questions, and we are waiting for your questions too. So one of the questions we received the most is, how often is it necessary to replace the cartridge and the polypropylene membrane, which is the ratio?
Okay. Yes, of course. As I was mentioning, regarding the timings, it depends on the application, of course. So light duty application, heavy duty application. So we can go from also a couple of years, we can say, to 1 year more or less. Let's say that the ratio, according to our experience, the ratio between the changing, how much you have to change the cartridge and how much you have to change the polypropylene cloth is 1 to 3. Okay, so it means that based on our experience and so on, it means every 3 times that you change the cloth, you might have to change also the cartridge. Okay. Now, one thing that I would like to say also about the cloth is that sometimes we get scared if the cloth gets dirty or if the cloth gets full of oil, but it doesn't mean that it's not working. It doesn't mean that it needs to be changed. So what should be taken into account in this sense is anyway the pressure differential, anyway the performance of the filter. So if this is dirty, if there is oil on it, it means that it's working. It means that it's doing its job, and it's what it's designed to do. So don't worry too much about this, but take into account obviously about the pressure differential and about the performance of the filter. So maybe more or less this is the idea of the ratio and of the timing of the maintenance that should be done on the filter.
Okay, another frequent question is, are the cartridges or the cloth washable?
No, let's say that we don't suggest we don't suggest to wash cartridges or nor cloth. We suggest to change them, especially for the cartridge, because as I was mentioning, the material of the cartridges is fiberglass. Okay, so fiberglass can be let's say stressed by cleaning. So no, we don't suggest to clean the cartridges actually.
Okay, we have a question. Which is the role of the polypropylene cover? Is it to retain the biggest particles?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. As I was saying, it is a pre-filtration stage. Okay, so it gives some coalescence effect to the filtration process, and yes, of course, it helps to stop all those bigger particles and leave to the actual filter, to the actual cartridge, the work for the finer parts. Okay, so yes, this is the answer is yes, basically.
Okay, so what shall we do in the event the fan makes some noises or vibrations?
Well, let's say that this is it's not very usual. Let's say, I mean, normally it can happen when there is, let's say, some problems on the ventilator and on the motor. Let's say that you can have some build-ups on the impeller, but honestly, it's not so common. But basically, when you hear some strange vibrations, some strange noises, it can be a problem on the, let's say, upper part of the filter. Okay, so the motor, the ventilator, it can happen, but it's not so common that you have an unbalanced impeller. But in that case, we will be there to give you a hand. And so also in this period of time when we are far away, when we cannot move, we are always available to do remote via web checks of the filters. So don't worry when you hear some strange things on the filter going on. You can always know that we are there and we can organize remote checks of the filters.
Okay, so you have already mentioned this, but we have been asked whether the polypropylene cloth is washable.
No, let's say we don't suggest to do this. I mean, it's in our view, it's better to change it. It's not a big amount of let's say in terms of cost and so on. So usually gets changed. Usually it needs to get changed. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, the labor cost is more than the spare parts because it's very cheaper.
Okay, so for now we don't have any more questions, but as usual, the H-Filtration team is here and we are at your disposal to answer any kind of questions you might have. So if you don't have question now, but you will come up with questions later, please contact us. We are always here to help you.
Of course, of course. So I agree totally with Martina. And as usual, I will give you some spoiler alert. You are lucky because when you take part to the webinars, I can give you some news in advance. We are planning to promote digital checks. Okay, as I was also mentioning before, which is something that we do as usual, but we would like now to promote. We will be doing a campaign also on giving the chance to our partners to have our assistants, our remote assistants. Of course, it will be me, but it will be technical people, it will be after sales people. So we are promoting also this kind of assistance because we believe that assistance also in this period of time, which unlucky for me, trips are not allowed. We need and we want to give assistance even remotely. So you will see some campaigns from our side, you will receive some communication and think if it can be useful with you and with your customers, we can plan together a strategy to use also this remote assistance. So, okay, just I close the parentheses and now I thank you again for participating to our webinar. We are planning, of course, more webinars, more activities. We are always happy to hear from you if you have any kind of suggestion, any kind of also advice in terms of the activities to be done. So thank you again. We wait for your feedback. Follow us on social media as usual for our news. And thank you and have a nice day and proud to be a chef. Bye.